I woke up like I always do, prayed before my feet hit the floor, made my coffee slow and steady, the way Cliff used to like it, Mahalia Jackson playing low from the old speaker by the window. The sun was coming in through the lace curtain, dancing on the wood floors. Cliff laid himself 42 years ago. I was humming just like always, still wearing that old apron with my name stitched into the chest. Clementine, faded thread, but still holding. That house was quiet, the kind of quiet you earn. Ain't no babies crying anymore. No Cliff coming through the door with paint on his hands. Just me and my breath, and the peace I built brick by brick. Then the phone buzzed. I didn't rush to check it. Thought it might be a weather alert or a call from Deacon Hill about Sunday's prayer meeting. But it wasn't that. Just one line on the screen, from Wayne. "You'll be dead anyway, Mom." At first I blinked, thought maybe I was misreading it. Maybe it was autocorrect. Maybe he meant to say something else. But my stomach didn't believe in typos. My chest tightened in a way I couldn't name. I stood still, phone in hand, listening to the silence that suddenly felt like a stranger in my own home. I whispered it out loud. "You'll be dead anyway." What kind of son sends that to the woman who nursed him through asthma, who worked 2 shifts to keep him in school, who buried his father and never missed a beat? I sat down at the kitchen table, that same table where I used to cut up peaches for him, peel boiled eggs just the way he liked. My knees didn't give out, they gave up. I laid the phone down, but the words were stuck. They floated in the air above me like smoke you can't wave away. I reached for my Bible on the table, but I couldn't open it. My hands were shaking too much. My apron. My name still there, but I wasn't sure if I still was. And then, like a slow flood, it came back. 2 months ago. Wayne came by with papers in his hand, said they were refinancing documents. "Just routine, Mama. You know interest rates are crazy." He rushed me through it, talked fast, made jokes, asked me about my biscuits while sliding page after page toward me. I should have paused. I should have asked, but I didn't. I signed, because that's my boy, right? Cliff's voice echoed in my head. "Don't sign nothin'. I ain't looked over first, teen." I ignored it then. But now, I saw the truth sitting in plain sight like a wolf in Sunday clothes. I signed my house away. I picked the phone back up, tried calling Wayne, straight to voicemail, texted him. "Wayne, what do you mean by that text?" Delivered, but no reply. Called Zenobia, my daughter. Her voice came through cold and clipped. "Mama, don't blow up my phone with drama. I'm at work." I stared at the ceiling. Nobody. That thundercloud that lives under your ribs, the one that holds all your swallowed words. It started rolling. I didn't cry. I wanted to, but something in me had already dried up. It's hard to cry when you've cried generations worth already. My mama didn't cry when her brothers sold off their farmland. Her mama didn't cry when the bank took her wedding ring. Crying's a luxury we weren't born with. I got up and walked, touched the hallway walls, the bookshelf Cliff built, the coat rack Wayne made in 10th grade shop class. My fingerprints were everywhere. My soul was in this wood, but I wasn't wanted here anymore. I sat back down, phone still glowing, like it had something else to say. I opened the drawer in the buffet, where I keep my important things. Cliff's old veteran's ID, my will, the church donation book, and the envelope Wayne had left me. I pulled it out slow, opened it, read every line like it was a slow bleed. There it was. Occupant, Clementine Barnett. Status, former. Former, as if I died already. I looked around the room again, at the curtains I sewed, the photos on the mantel, the grooves in the floor where Cliff's rocker used to sit. If I died today, I whispered, this house wouldn't even remember my name. And the sun dimmed, just a little more than it should have. I didn't walk fast getting out that cab, but something in me knew to keep going. Clinic visit had me worn, and all I wanted was to sit in my chair, look out my front window like I always did. But before I even stepped on the porch, I knew something was off. The flower beds, trampled like they'd been stepped on and forgotten. The curtains were drawn tight like someone didn't want the sun peeking in. And that SUV in the driveway? Silver, shiny, loud-looking. It didn't belong. I stood there a second longer than I meant to. Then I reached for the doorknob. My hand wasn't steady, but I turned it. The door wasn't locked. Inside, the house didn't sound like mine. Laughter, kids running, a woman's voice yelling out, "Jason, don't touch that with your hands." I walked into my own kitchen and froze. There she was, young, loud, long nails tapping against the countertop. She was unpacking takeout containers like she owned the place. Chinese. My house hadn't smelled like soy sauce since Cliff passed. She turned when she saw me and smiled like I was the unexpected guest at someone else's dinner. "Oh, you must be Wayne's mom," she said, not skipping a beat. "He said you were staying at the center." I didn't answer right away. I looked at her, then at the boy who ran past me with sneakers too bright for this old wooden floor. He paused just enough to say, "This our grandma?" That stuck. I took a slow breath. "Why are you in my house?" She didn't blink. "Wayne told me this place was ours now. Said you wanted to let it go." Let it go. My home. The walls I scrubbed, the roof I patched with Cliff when we had nothing but 2 ladders and borrowed hope. "You need to talk to Wayne," she added, picking up an egg roll like we weren't having a conversation that would burn down the last of my peace. I didn't argue. My hands had curled into fists, but I kept them by my side. No use throwing fire where it won't catch. I turned and walked out. I didn't cry. I drove to the library. Still had that old card in my wallet. I didn't want to call nobody. I wanted the truth, and I wanted it in numbers. Sat down at one of those public terminals and logged into the account Wayne told me we should keep open, just in case. $200,000. Transferred to Lita Marie McClinton 2 weeks ago. I stared at it, blinking hard. My hands weren't shaking anymore. They were still stone. "This boy spent my whole damn life," I whispered. I clicked over to social media. Her page was open, public. She hadn't thought to hide it. There she was, in a private jet, legs crossed, champagne flute in hand, caption reading, "Funding my dreams, thank you, baby." No thank you, Miss Clementine. No nod to the woman who gave up decades for that baby. I sat there longer than I needed to, just reading, breathing, remembering. You think about all the things you did in silence, pulling extra shifts, skipping meals, missing birthdays, so they could have what you never did, and they thank you by replacing your name with theirs. I sat in the car outside the library for a while, just sitting. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about dignity. I thought about every time I covered for Wayne, lied to debt collectors, took out loans in my name, said he just needs time while watching him throw time away like it was candy wrappers. He didn't just take my house. He erased me. My hand gripped the steering wheel tight, veins rising like roots pushing through dirt. Then the phone rang. I didn't recognize the number. "Hey, Mom," Wayne said, his voice casual, too smooth. "I heard you stop by the house. Lita said you were rude." I didn't say anything. He kept going. "Look, I did what I had to do. You ain't really using that house. Lita's business is blowing up. We're doing good things, real good things." Then, as if that wasn't enough, "Don't make this into something ugly. I'm finally winning." Winning. I hung up without saying a word. Some silences are louder than anything. I drove, not home, not back to the library. I pulled into the church parking lot, sat under the old willow tree where Cliff used to rest after Sunday service. I didn't go inside. Didn't need no sermon. I had one building inside me already. I reached into my purse, pulled out the notepad I kept for groceries and quotes, turned to the first clean page and wrote, May 14th, Wayne. Text, "You'll be dead anyway." Lita, transfer, $200,000. Bank, joint account. Date, April 29th. I kept writing, details, phrases, everything. They always say black mothers are strong, I said out loud. But strength ain't silence. I reached into the bottom of my purse and pulled out that copy of the deed, the one I'd signed. This is where I start. I sat at the table again that evening, the same one where I used to help Wayne with his homework, back when he still called me Mama, with warmth. The deed papers were spread out, mocking me with legal terms that felt like handcuffs. I was reading them for the third time, searching for a sentence that might say this wasn't real, that maybe it could be undone. But the line that mattered stayed the same: former occupant. A knock on the door pulled me out my thoughts. Not loud. Gentle, like someone who didn't want to be a bother but knew they had to come anyway. I opened the door, and there stood Mallard Reese, or Big Duck, as most folks called him. Old friend of Cliff's. Wore the same work boots from 20 years back, laces frayed but still holding. He didn't say much, just looked at me for a second, then held out a yellowed envelope. Cliff wrote this for you, told me to keep it till I felt like you needed it. I didn't speak. Just took the envelope with slow hands and nodded. My throat was too thick to trust words. Wayne, he turnin' into the man Cliff feared he might become. I ain't want to believe it, but now I seen enough. He didn't stay long. Said he'd be next door if I wanted to talk. Left me with that envelope burning in my palm. I closed the door behind him, sat back down, and opened it. The paper inside was creased deep, like it had been folded a long time. Cliff's handwriting danced across the page, strong but weathered. He started with love. That man always started with love. Then he said he'd seen something in Wayne, a kind of hunger that didn't come from poverty, but pride. He wants to be big, Tyne, the letter read. But he don't know how to build anything. He just wants the credit. Cliff wrote, "If I go before you, promise me one thing. Don't let that boy turn you into somebody else's sacrifice." That line sat on my chest like bricks. I cried, but not loud. Tears came the way they do when your body finally admits it's tired. I pressed the letter to my chest, whispered, "I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner, Cliff." Later, I sat on Mallard's porch with him. He didn't ask if I read the letter. He knew I had. We just sat, cicadas buzzing, the summer air thick as memory. "He didn't leave you money," Mallard said, "but he left you truth, and sometimes that's the only shield we get." "I've been strong too long for the wrong people," I replied. He nodded, reached into his coat pocket and pulled out an old photo, Cliff holding baby Wayne, both of them smiling like the world was fair. "He used to be a good boy," Mallard said. "Somewhere along the way, he started looking at shortcuts instead of the long road." The porch was quiet, but not empty. We said more in that silence than most folks do with a sermon. When I got home, I opened my own Bible, pulled out a blank notebook I kept tucked in the back. The one I always meant to fill with recipes. On the first page, I wrote in big letters, "Evidence," in case I forget my own truth. Underneath, I listed dates, conversations, bank info, what he said, what she said. Then I wrote, "I am not crazy. I am not disposable." I folded Cliff's letter and slid it into the front sleeve. That was my Exhibit A. That night, memories came sharp and uninvited. 18 years ago. Wayne was on the verge of getting kicked out of college, said he needed tuition money or he was done. I didn't tell him I pawned my grandmother's necklace. Real gold. Family piece from back in Louisiana. Told him it was lost. He never asked how I came up with the money. Just said, "Thanks, Mama," and kept it moving. That necklace, I said to myself, was meant for my granddaughter. Now it's gone like it never mattered. And it wasn't the necklace that haunted me. It was what it cost me to keep believing in him. My phone buzzed just as I was closing the notebook. A voicemail. "Lita." I pressed play. "Hey, Miss Lucy, I think you left some old things in the shed. Just letting you know we're throwing out anything that looks broken. No hard feelings." I didn't respond. Didn't need to. I just sat there, letting her voice hang in the room like bad perfume. They think I'm broken, I said to no one, but broken glass still cuts. That morning, I made up my mind I wasn't going to sit still. I'd reached my limit with unanswered questions, unfinished thoughts, and a phone that stayed quiet too long. I started with Zenobia. She always answered, even if she didn't want to. Not today. Voicemail clicked in fast. "Don't start this again, Mama," she said, cold, tired. I stared at the phone like it owed me something more than that. Next, I called my niece, straight to voicemail. My godson, nothing. Even Sister Gloria from church, not one voice, not one soul willing to speak back. I scrolled through old messages hoping I missed something, a typo, a missed call. Maybe somebody had left me a note I didn't see, but all I saw were red receipts, green check marks, proof that I was heard and ignored. It's not the yelling that cuts, it's the silence. When folks let it ring and you realize it ain't 'cause they busy, it's 'cause they done with you. That silence. It don't just feel like being left out. It feels like betrayal wrapped in a soft robe smiling at you like it's kindness. Then I remembered the family group chat. I hadn't looked in it in months, figured it was just memes and baby pictures. But something told me to check. I opened it. They'd been talking. Oh, they had plenty to say, just not to me. Messages about Lita's event at the house, questions about food trucks, chairs, decorations. Somebody asked if the garden would be ready in time. And there it was, Zenobia's name. Mama won't make a fuss. She's not like that. Not like that. I read it again. Not like that. They used the quiet I gave them as permission to erase me. My silence became their green light. My peace turned into their plot. When they speak for you long enough, I whispered, they forget you ever had a mouth. I didn't say nothing in that chat, just left it, pressed exit group, and watched it disappear from my screen like it had never been there. But the betrayal, that didn't disappear. Later that day, 2 folks showed up at my door. Not family, not friends, social workers, nice enough in that we just doing our job kind of way. "Miss Barnett?" one of them asked, holding a clipboard. "Yes. We've been sent on behalf of your son, Wayne Evers. He's filed placement paperwork for assisted care." I blinked. "Placement?" "He said you've been having difficulty with memory and stress. He's concerned about your well-being." I didn't scream, didn't cuss. I just said, "He said what?" They fumbled. "We understand this might be upsetting." I nodded slowly, hands at my sides. "I'll need some time to pack." They looked surprised. Maybe they thought I'd fight. But I wasn't going to let them see the fire yet. Not here. I packed my bag, took what mattered. My notebook, my Bible, Cliff's letter. As they led me out, I looked back at the living room, my chair, the spot Cliff used to nap in, my lace curtains. Gone, but not finished. The ride was quiet. No one asked me how I felt. We pulled into a facility that smelled like old bleach and forgotten promises, paint peeling like skin in summer heat, linoleum cracked, voices echoing behind thick doors. I was welcomed by someone who didn't even look me in the eye. They handed me a small plastic bag with a few linens, showed me to my room. 2 beds, 1 occupied. The woman in the other bed stared blankly at the wall, muttering something I couldn't make out. Later that night, she screamed until they gave her something to sleep. On the door was a piece of paper. Barnett, C. Spelled wrong. The house had my name carved in wood. This place, it gave me marker tape. I opened my notebook and wrote, "Don't let this become normal." 2 days passed, no visit, no phone call. A nurse dropped off a box that Wayne had left for me. Inside, an old blanket, a pair of worn slippers, and my favorite mug. Cracked down the middle, no note. Not even a "hope you're okay." I sat on my bed looking at that mug. My name was on it. Faded, like everything else about me lately. "They don't even know what I need," I said. I picked it up, held it like a stone in my hand. "They think I'm finished, but I ain't poured my last yet. That night, I waited until the halls got quiet, pulled out my phone, opened the recorder. My voice was steady. Day 1. My name is Clementine Barnett. I am of sound mind. I was forced here. I will not stay quiet. I tucked the phone inside my Bible. They wanted me quiet. Instead, I'm going to get loud. I woke up before the lights flicked on in the hallway. The bed was too stiff to sleep through the night, and my back told me I'd laid too long in one position. I reached for my Bible, not to read, but to touch. The phone I'd hidden inside it, still there, still recording, just like I planned. I played back what I said the night before, barely above a whisper. My name is Clementine Barnett. I am of sound mind. I was forced here. I will not stay quiet. I played it twice, maybe 3 times, not because I doubted it, but because I needed to hear myself say something true. A nurse came in, didn't knock. Breakfast is down the hall, if you want it. I nodded, even though she wasn't looking at me anymore. I held the Bible close as I got dressed. My bones weren't fast, but my mind felt sharper than it had in weeks. That's the funny thing about betrayal. Once you accept it happened, it wakes you up. Back in my room, I reached inside the lining of Cliff's old Bible. Taped there was the second letter, the one Mallard handed me in secret, the one Cliff didn't want me to read unless the time came. I guess the time had come. I opened it slow. His handwriting still looked like him, firm, clean, no nonsense. Teen, it started. If you're reading this, then something has gone wrong, and I'm sorry I'm not there to stop it. He talked about Wayne, about how he'd seen something shift in him after he turned 20, how his pride grew faster than his patience. He wants applause without work, and when a man wants shine without sweat, he starts borrowing light that don't belong to him. Cliff said he saw it clear, that Wayne would twist my silence into compliance. You always been steady, but if you're not careful, they'll shrink you to fit their story. That part shook me. I folded the letter neatly and tucked it into the notebook I'd started. That book was mine now, not a diary, not a journal, a record. On the first page, in pen, the book of my name. I began listing every piece of what happened, the date Wayne brought the refinance papers, the way he rushed me, the moment Lita called me just the previous tenant, the transfer to her account, every conversation I could remember, word for word. I documented it like it was testimony, because it was. This wasn't therapy. This was evidence. When I finished the first few pages, I looked around the room. I didn't see comfort. I saw a holding cell made out of checklists and yes ma'ams. So I started recording, not just thoughts, facts, what the food looked like, the way they pushed pills without explanation, the names of nurses who barely made eye contact. When one of them heard me muttering and rolled her eyes, I smiled. Let them hear it, I said. All of it. I recorded memories too. The time Wayne forged my name on a library card when he was 13. The year he begged me to take a loan for his music equipment and disappeared 2 weeks later. The calls from creditors he swore he'd take care of. See, folks forget, but I don't. My memory's sharp. And I ain't never needed a sword when I had the truth and a working mic. Then the phone rang. I almost didn't answer, but the name stopped me. Odella Hayes. That girl. I hadn't seen her in years. I'd helped her mama when her daddy walked out. She used to sit at my kitchen table with Kool-Aid stains on her chin, telling me she was going to be a lawyer one day. She was Miss Clementine? Her voice was clear, calm, grown. Mr. Mallard told me what's been happening. I want to help, if you're ready to be heard. I closed my eyes for a moment, let the weight settle. I'm ready. We talked strategy, proving my mental clarity, requesting records, building a timeline. She said, we'll subpoena the banks. Get everything under oath. For the first time since this started, I didn't feel like the one waiting to be rescued. I felt like the one building the rescue plan. Later that night, I flipped to the back of the notebook, trying to find a blank page. One fell out, a sticky note. The handwriting stopped me cold. Love you, Mama. I'll be better. Promise. Wayne. 12 years old. Probably taped it to my coffee mug that day he broke the toaster and thought I'd be mad. I ran my fingers over the ink. It was starting to fade. The boy who wrote this, I said quietly. He gone. But I was still here, and I wasn't folding. I tucked that sticky note between the pages, not because it proved he was good, but because it reminded me of what I would never let slip through my fingers again. Odella's call came just after breakfast. I was sitting by the window with my Bible open, not reading, just needing something solid in my lap. Miss Clementine, she said, her voice sharp, you need to check your phone. They put your name out there. Bad. I didn't know what she meant until I opened the notifications. My screen lit up like a fire, dozens of alerts, tags, and messages. Then she sent me the link. Lita, smiling into the camera like she was on some talk show. Background music, fake candles, a ring light reflecting in her glossed-up eyes. She titled it, Manifesting with Mama's Money. I watched as she twirled in the living room of my house. She laughed like it was all a joke. This house, she said, was gifted to me, a divine donation. The universe rewards those who know how to receive. No mention of me, not a whisper of my name. This ain't no spiritual gift, I whispered to the empty room. It's blood money, mine. I didn't close the video. I watched the next one too. This one was longer, a live stream, thousands of viewers watching her spin the truth. Sometimes, Lita said, sipping champagne, the older generation don't need all that space no more. Mama don't even miss it. She told me herself. She smiled wide, teeth shining like a snake's promise. We're gonna remodel the kitchen, she went on, make it feel less dated. My fingers clenched so tight around the phone I heard it creak. They remodeling me out the story. The comments rolled in. She deserves it. Blessings, sis. Love seeing young black women win, but not all of them were praise. One comment stuck. Where's her mother in all this? I scrolled further, saw a name I knew. Zenobia. Mom's always been selfless, she wrote. She wouldn't want us to argue. Wouldn't want us to argue. They'd rewritten me into a saint and erased me all at once. A silent angel who handed over her house and vanished into grace. No, I wasn't built for that. I sat back in my chair. Let the rage boil just beneath the skin. It didn't shake me. It sharpened me. I opened my notebook. Page after page. I started writing every word from that live stream. I watched it again and caught something folks probably missed. Wayne's voice, off camera. If she ever says anything, he said, laughing low, we'll say she forgot we asked. That one line, that one clip, it became my anchor. They banking on me being quiet, I said. That's their whole plan. So I did the one thing they weren't ready for. I turned the camera on myself, sat by the window, wore that old apron, faded name still stitched across the front. I didn't raise my voice, didn't shake a finger. My name, I said slowly, is Clementine Barnett. That is my house, and I did not give it away. I told the story, just the facts, what I signed, what I was told, what they did, no accusations, no yelling, just truth. Odella uploaded it. Titled it, When Silence is No Longer Strength. And the world started watching. Comments came in fast. This is heartbreaking. She looks like my grandma. Where's the justice for her? Somebody needs to be held accountable. I didn't smile, but I felt seen. That feeling didn't last long. Wayne texted me that evening. You just made it worse for yourself. Lita followed with a story on Instagram. Older folks be trippin' when they see young folks shine. I didn't flinch. I recorded one more video, just one line. You can shine all you want, but don't steal my son to do it. Odella messaged me right after. They're going to spin this harder. Be ready. I already was. Later that night, a nurse knocked. You got mail. No return address. Manila envelope. Handwritten. Inside were photos. Of my house. Only it didn't look like mine anymore. New paint. My flower beds dug up. My porch swing gone. And on the mailbox, my name scratched out. Barnett. Scraped off like rust on metal. There was a flyer folded between the photos. Legacy Garden Launch, hosted by Lita McClinton. Legacy. My fists didn't clench this time. I folded the flyer, put it in my notebook. They didn't just take my house, I said aloud, steady and clear. They turned it into a monument to their lies. The paper was just sitting there, folded over on the armrest of a chair in the lounge. Some old fella had probably left it after reading the obits. Most mornings I wouldn't have even looked at it. But that day, something told me to check. Front page, right-hand column, local woman 74 wins case after family took her home without consent. I read it twice. Third time, I cut it out with the edge of a plastic knife and taped it straight into my notebook. Somebody else fought and won. That sentence stayed in my chest like gospel. I wasn't crazy, I wasn't alone, and I wasn't going to be quiet no more. Later that week, the nurses called my name for what they called a therapeutic outing. That's how they labeled it on the chart. Just a trip to the library, nothing more. But I had other plans. The library hadn't changed much. Same cold air, same gray carpet. I walked in with my notebook tucked under my arm and a pen clipped to the side like it was armor. I was halfway down the magazine aisle when I heard, "Ms. Clementine?" I turned. There she was, M. Tillman, not a girl anymore, long braids, press badge hanging from a lanyard, confidence in her walk, but her eyes still carried that old soul I remembered from years back. "I used to sit at your kitchen table," she said, smiling. "You're the reason I believe black women can survive anything." We hugged, tight, the kind of hug that don't ask for permission. We sat at a back table by the window, and I slid the article across to her. "This happened," I said. "If it can happen for her, maybe it can for me." Em pulled out her laptop like she'd been waiting for this moment all along. "Then let's build your case." We started digging through old property records, bank transactions, social media screenshots. Everything I'd been collecting in my notebook became pieces of a timeline she organized on a private drive labeled Clementine's Case, Not for Silence. We called Odella on video, and she laid out next steps: legal paperwork, media prep, and most important, testimony. We planned to go public on 3 fronts: legal, social, and spiritual. I wasn't trying to go viral. I was trying to be heard. That Sunday, I walked into church for the first time in weeks. Not alone. Em walked beside me, USB drive in her purse, evidence in mine. We didn't sit. We stood in the back, waited till testimony time came around. Pastor Henry called for it, his voice as slow and steady as ever. I stepped forward. I hadn't written anything down. Didn't need to. "Sometimes," I said, "they don't bury you. They just build around your silence." A few murmurs. Then I pulled out the drive. 1 clip, 2 minutes. Wayne's voice caught in the live stream. "If she ever says anything, we'll say she forgot we asked." The room went quiet. Some folks looked down. Others looked straight at me. Nobody clapped. They just listened. After service, an older woman, Mrs. Gladys, walked up slow, real slow, like every step had to mean something. "You speakin' truth, baby," she said, hand on my shoulder. "You speakin' for all us that didn't have the mic." I nodded. Tears fell before I could stop them. But it wasn't pain. It was recognition. Outside, Em hit record on her phone and captured a short reflection. "This is what it looks like when a voice is finally heard. When silence breaks wide open and truth walks out wearing pearls." We agreed to release the first podcast episode next week. Title was easy. They took her name off the mailbox. That evening, back at the nursing home, I checked my email. A new message. Subject: "We need to talk. Urgently. Zenobia." I clicked it open. "Mama, They're saying you're starting something that could ruin Wayne's reputation. You need to stop before this gets out of control. I didn't hit reply, didn't even blink. I just closed the message, leaned back in my chair, and whispered, I ain't the one out of control. I'm the one finally in it. Odella showed up just after breakfast. I could tell from her face she wasn't there to make small talk. She walked straight in, clutching a manila folder like it held somebody's last breath. I sat up in my chair, pulled the blanket off my lap, and gave her space to speak. He filed your taxes, Ms. Clementine, she said. Claimed deductions for property expenses under your name. Claimed the house sale. All of it, without permission. I didn't flinch, didn't gasp. He thought I was too tired to read fine print, I said flat. She nodded, slid the folder over. We're opening the case now, but there's something else you need to see. Odella held up a flyer. Legacy Garden Launch, hosted by Lita McClinton. My old home, my soil, my sweat. She looked at me like she knew what was coming next. I want you there. I didn't answer at first, just stood up, slow but steady. If they stole my name, I said, I'm going to say it out loud where they tried to bury it. We didn't rush. And I laid out my clothes that night with care, my old apron with Clementine stitched into the chest, not because I forgot who I was, but because I knew they had. Next morning, Mallard picked me up. He wouldn't take no for an answer. You need somebody who remembers the truth, he said. Em met us at the van. She had her press kit ready, photos, audio files, documents all packed neatly. Odella was already there, waiting by the gate with a calm fury on her face. They tried to make my house look like a nonprofit center. Sterile, sanitized. My porch swing was gone. The tree cliff planted with Wayne when he was 7 had been shaved down to a stub. On the plaque out front, it read, in honor of the McClinton family's legacy of care. No mention of me. No trace of the woman who mopped blood off that kitchen floor when Wayne broke his nose trying to flip off the couch. No photo of Cliff in the hallway. No sign of the garden we built out back. Just Lita, center stage, in white, grinning like she birthed the brickwork herself. Wayne stood behind her, hands folded. No shame. When they called for community acknowledgments, I moved. Slow, on purpose, letting every step echo louder than applause. People whispered, some nudged, some looked away. I reached the mic and cleared my throat. My name, I said, steady and strong, is Clementine Barnett. This house used to know me. Somebody in the back gasped. I pulled out my phone and played a short recording. Wayne's voice clear as Sunday bells. If she ever says anything, we'll say she forgot we asked. Gasps turned to murmurs. Then I held up a copy of the tax filing. He didn't just take my house. He filed under my name, took my taxes, my signature, my silence. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. Odella stepped forward, handed out printed copies. M filmed every second. Wayne tried to speak, raised his hand like he had a sermon to preach, but the crowd turned cold, eyes cut like knives. Backs turned. A few folks stepped away from him. Then I heard footsteps. Zenobia. She walked forward, shoulders stiff, jaw clenched. Took the mic. That's my mama, she said. And I've been quiet too long. I'm sorry. No applause, just silence. But this time, it wasn't a weapon. It was weight. It was truth, finally given its turn at the mic. I didn't hug her, just nodded. That was all I had left to give her right now. Back at the edge of the yard, a woman in a dark blazer approached Odella. She whispered, handed her an envelope. IRS letterhead. Odella opened it, read it quickly, then turned to me. It's official. They've opened the case. Fraud, misuse of identity, tax evasion. Across the yard, Wayne looked at me. First time I saw fear on his face. Real fear. Odella leaned in. They're not just losing your house. They're about to lose their peace. I closed my eyes, let the weight sink in. The tree may have been trimmed, the paint redone, the porch swing gone, but the roots, they were still mine. You can't steal someone's legacy and think the soil won't remember who planted the seeds. I walked past the house slowly, not because I was hesitant, because I wasn't in a rush. Not anymore. The porch was empty now. No flyers, no balloons. The legacy garden sign had been taken down. My swing, gone. My tree, just a stump. And yet, for the first time, I didn't stop. They stripped my name off the gate, I said quietly to myself, but they couldn't erase who built the soil. I didn't look back, just kept walking toward the bus stop. I live somewhere else now. A little senior apartment on the west side managed by a local justice ministry that helps folks like me get back on their feet. Nothing fancy, but every piece in there belongs to me. The curtains, the coffee mug, the framed photo of me and Cliff laughing in our backyard, back when laughter wasn't a thing I had to protect. M visits a lot, always showing me messages, emails from women I don't know, men who hadn't seen their mothers in years. One letter said, "You gave me courage to file against my own daughter. I thought I was alone." I smiled at that one. There's power in not being invisible anymore, I told M. Wayne, he hadn't called, hadn't sent an email, not even a voicemail saying he was sorry. Odella told me most of his business deals fell through after the story broke. Some company revoked a sponsorship. Some friend canceled a contract. I didn't feel joy about that. Silence used to hurt me. Now it protects me from hoping. I deleted his number, not from spite, just from clarity. Sometimes healing don't look like a hug, I whispered. Sometimes it's closing a door soft, but sure. A week later, Zenobia stopped by. She brought a basket with ginger tea, 2 lemon cookies, and that look daughters wear when they're trying to make something right. We sat by the window, didn't say much at first. She broke the silence. I know I failed you, Mama. I didn't rush to forgive, didn't slap it away either. You believe the wrong things, I said, but you hear now. That's enough for me. We talked about everything and nothing, about the tree, about Cliff's letters, about the new garden the senior center's planning. She offered to help. I want to make space for you now, she said. You don't have to, I told her. I already took it. Then Odella called. Calm voice, just like always. It's done, she said. Judge ruled the transfer was under duress. The deed's back in your name. I thanked her, but I didn't react. The truth is, it wasn't about the house anymore. Not for me. What do you want to do now? She asked. I'm done with courtrooms, I said. I'm building roots where they can't dig me up again. That night, I opened my notebook, final page. I wrote one last thing, a letter, to Cliff. I didn't just survive, baby. I spoke up. You'd be proud of how I stood. I folded that page and tucked it into the Bible with his letter, same as always. You don't fight just to win, I said out loud. You fight so the next person don't have to. Outside my window, I could see the garden beds taking shape, raised wooden boxes, fresh compost, a boy from the church placing seedlings with care, like they mattered. M posted the final podcast episode the next day. Title, The Woman Who Reclaimed Her Roots. The video faded out on my voice, plain and clear. They stole the house. Tried to take the name, too, but I remembered who I was before they forgot me. I closed my notebook, set it on the shelf, and smiled. Across the room, hanging on the wall, was my apron, tattered but framed.